The cold water rushed into my lungs as my sister's manicured hands shoved me off the yacht's edge. Through the churning bubbles and salt that burned my eyes, I could see her perfect smile above the surface. The same smile she wore when she stole my inheritance, my fiancé, and now, apparently, my life. But as I sank deeper into the midnight ocean, something ancient stirred beneath me. Golden scales brushed against my drowning form, and suddenly, I wasn't drowning anymore. I was breathing. And the most beautiful man I'd ever seen was holding me in his arms, his eyes the color of deep ocean trenches, a crown of coral and pearls adorning his dark hair. "Marina Chen," he said, and his voice resonated through the water like whale song. "Your blood has awakened me. The contract your grandmother made 60 years ago is finally fulfilled." I should have been terrified. I should have been confused. But all I could think about was the shock that would paint my sister's face when she realized that pushing me into the ocean hadn't killed me. It had crowned me. 3 months earlier, I wouldn't have believed any of this was possible. 3 months earlier, I was just the forgotten daughter of the Chen family, watching my younger sister Vivian plan her engagement party to my ex-fiancé while wearing the diamond necklace that should have been mine. The necklace had belonged to our grandmother, a magnificent piece with a sapphire the size of a quail egg, surrounded by diamonds that caught the light like trapped stars. Grandmother had left it to me specifically in her will, along with her entire jewelry collection and a mysterious locked chest that I'd never been able to open. But Vivian had wanted it, and what Vivian wanted, Vivian got. "Marina doesn't even appreciate beautiful things," she'd told our parents that day, her voice dripping with false concern. "She'd probably just sell it all for her little art studio. I'm the one who understands the value of family heirlooms." Our parents had nodded along, as they always did. Within a week, lawyers had been called, documents had been mysteriously reinterpreted, and Vivian walked away with everything except the locked chest. And only because she couldn't figure out how to open it either. That was how it had always been. When we were children, Vivian would break my toys and tell our parents I'd done it myself in a tantrum. When I won the district art competition at 15, she'd accidentally spilled paint thinner on my portfolio the night before the state finals. When I brought home my college boyfriend David, she'd spent 6 months secretly meeting him for coffee until he left me for her. "You understand, don't you, Marina?" David had said when he broke up with me. "Vivian just has this light about her. You're so intense. So serious all the time. Intense. Serious. Difficult." These were the words that followed me through life. While Vivian was vivacious, charming, delightful. She had our mother's delicate features and our father's charisma, while I had inherited grandmother's sharp cheekbones and her strange sea gray eyes that our father said made me look otherworldly, in a way that wasn't meant as a compliment. But grandmother had loved me. She'd been the only one who had. "You have the old blood, my little pearl," she used to whisper when she brushed my hair. "The sea recognizes its own." I never understood what she meant. Not until that night on the yacht. The party was supposed to celebrate Vivian's engagement to David. Our parents had rented the most luxurious yacht in the harbor, invited 300 of their closest friends, and spared no expense on champagne, caviar, and a string quartet that played on the upper deck. I hadn't wanted to come, but Mother had insisted. "It would look strange if you weren't there," she'd said, not meeting my eyes. "People would talk." So I'd come, wearing a simple black dress while Vivian sparkled in white silk and diamonds, my grandmother's diamonds. I'd stood in the corner, nursing a glass of champagne I didn't want, watching David feed her chocolate-covered strawberries while our parents' friends whispered about how magnanimous Vivian was to invite her poor, bitter sister. I'd stepped out onto the lower deck to escape, to breathe air that didn't smell like Vivian's perfume and my own humiliation. The ocean was calm, black glass under the moonlight. I was alone. Or I thought I was. "You know, Marina," Vivian's voice came from behind me. "I've been thinking." I turned. She stood in the doorway, backlit by the party lights, looking like an angel holding 2 champagne glasses. "Peace offering," she said, extending one toward me. "We're sisters, after all. We shouldn't let David come between us." I should have known better. 25 years of experience should have taught me never to trust Vivian's peace offerings. But I was tired, and the champagne looked harmless, and part of me, the stupid, hopeful part that never learned, wanted to believe that maybe she was sincere. The champagne tasted bitter. Within seconds, the world tilted. You know what your problem is? Vivian said, her angelic smile morphing into something cruel as my legs buckled. You never learn to let go. Grandmother's things, David. This ridiculous idea that you deserve anything, you hold on too tight. She grabbed my arms as I struggled to stay upright, my vision swimming. The drug, whatever she'd put in the champagne, was fast acting. So I'm going to help you, she whispered, dragging me toward the rail. I'm going to help you let go of everything. I tried to scream, but my throat wouldn't work. I tried to fight, but my muscles had turned to water. She was smaller than me, had always been more delicate, but I was helpless as she hefted me up against the rail. Don't worry, she said, pressing a kiss to my forehead. I'll cry beautifully at your funeral. Everyone will say I was the best sister you could have asked for. Then she pushed. The water was shockingly cold, driving the fog from my brain for a moment of pure crystalline terror. I couldn't swim. The drug had made sure of that. I could only sink, my dress tangling around my legs, my lungs burning as I held what little breath I'd managed to grab. This is how I die, I thought. 25 years old, murdered by my sister, and no one will ever know. The darkness was absolute now. The pressure crushed my chest. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. Water rushed in, salt and cold and final. But death didn't come, and instead there was light, golden and warm, cutting through the black water like sunrise. Something massive moved beneath me, and suddenly I was cradled in arms that felt both human and not, breathing water as easily as air. Finally, a voice said, and it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, vibrating through my bones. I've waited so long for you. I opened my eyes, though I shouldn't have been able to open them, shouldn't have been able to see in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, and met the gaze of a god. He was beautiful in the way a storm is beautiful, terrible and magnificent all at once. His skin had a faint shimmer like scales caught in moonlight, and his dark hair floated around him like silk. But it was his eyes that held me, ancient, knowing, the deep blue-black of ocean trenches where light never reaches. Who? I started, then stopped, amazed that I could speak underwater. I am Kaelong, he said, and when he smiled, I saw teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be human. Dragon King of the Eastern Sea. And you, Marina Chen, are the payment for a debt 60 years overdue. Payment! The drug was wearing off, leaving confusion in its wake. What debt? What are you talking about? Your grandmother made a bargain, Kaelong said, his arms still holding me as we floated in the impossible underwater light. 60 years ago, she was drowning, much as you were just now. Her lover had betrayed her, tried to kill her for her inheritance. Sound familiar? My heart, did I still have a heart? Could it still beat underwater, pounded? I saved her, Kaelong continued, gave her the power to reclaim what was hers, to build the Chen Empire your family now enjoys. In exchange, she promised me the first of her bloodline to carry the old blood, the first to be murdered by their own kin over water. She promised me a bride. That's insane, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I remembered grandmother's strange stories, her obsession with the ocean, the way she'd always looked at me like she was waiting for something. Is it? Kaelong asked. You're breathing underwater. You're having a conversation with a dragon king. Your sister just tried to murder you, and instead of dying, you're here. How is any of this more insane than what's already happened? He had a point. So what now? I asked. You drag me down to some underwater palace and keep me prisoner? He laughed, and the sound was like waves breaking against rocks. Prisoner. Marina, you misunderstand. I'm not taking you captive. I'm offering you power. Your grandmother used what I gave her to build an empire. Imagine what you could do with even more. Power, I repeated, thinking of Vivian's smile as she pushed me overboard. What kind of power? The kind that makes your enemies wet themselves in fear, he said bluntly. The kind that lets you breathe underwater or walk on its surface. The kind that calls storms and soothes them. The kind that knows every secret whispered near water, and water, my dear bride, is everywhere. And in exchange, you marry me, he said simply. Become queen of the Eastern Sea. It's not a hardship, I promise. I'm an excellent husband. I've had centuries to practice being charming. You've been married before? No, he said, and for the first time, something vulnerable flickered across his inhuman features. I've been waiting. Your grandmother was very specific about the payment. It had to be someone of her bloodline, someone with the old blood, someone betrayed by family over water. I've been sleeping beneath these waves for 60 years, waiting for you. 60 years. My grandmother had made this bargain 60 years ago, knowing that someday one of her descendants would pay the price. Had she known it would be me? Had she seen Vivian's cruelty even before my sister was born? I need to think, I said. Of course, Kailong replied. But perhaps think about this. Your sister is up there right now, playing the panicked, grieving survivor. In approximately 10 minutes, she'll discover you're missing. In 20, the Coast Guard will be called. By morning, you'll be presumed dead, and she'll inherit everything. Your trust fund, your art studio, even that locked chest your grandmother left you. The chest? I'd forgotten about the chest. Unless, Kailong continued, his smile showing those two sharp teeth again, you'd like to make a dramatic reappearance. I can go back? You can do whatever you want, he said. You're not dead, Marina. You're transformed. The question is, do you want to crawl back to shore like a half-drowned rat? Let them put you in a hospital where no one will believe your story about Vivian pushing you. Or do you want to return as something more? When he put it like that, the choice was obvious. Tell me about this marriage, I said. His grin widened. It's both real and magical. By human law, you'll be my wife. I have excellent lawyers, even underwater ones. By magical law, you'll be bound to the sea and to me, but it's not a prison. You can walk on land whenever you choose. Live wherever you want. All I ask is that you spend some time in my realm, help me rule, and... He paused, looking almost shy. Perhaps get to know me. Eternity is a long time to spend with a stranger. And if I want a divorce, then in 100 years we can discuss it, he said. But I think you'll find being Queen of the Eastern Sea has its perks. For instance, he waved his hand, and suddenly I could see the yacht above us as clearly as if we were floating in air. I can show you everything your sister is doing right now. On the yacht, Vivian was performing beautifully. She'd waited exactly 10 minutes, just as Kailong had predicted, before running into the party screaming about how I'd fallen overboard. Her tears were perfect, just enough to seem genuine, not so much that her makeup ran. David held her while she sobbed about how I'd been drinking, how I'd seemed unstable, how she'd tried to stop me from going out alone, but I'd insisted. She was so depressed about the engagement, Vivian wailed to my parents. I think she might have done it on purpose. My mother was crying, real tears, which surprised me. My father just looked resigned, as if he'd been expecting something like this. We should have gotten her help, he said quietly. After your grandmother died, she never was quite right. Don't blame yourself, Daddy, Vivian said, pressing against his chest. Marina made her choice. Rage, pure and clean as fire, burned through me. Even now, even in death, she was rewriting history, making herself the victim, me the broken one. I'll do it, I said to Kailong. I'll marry you. Excellent choice, he said, and pulled a ring from the thin air, or thin water, I supposed. It was pearl and gold, shaped like a dragon wrapped around my finger. The moment it touched my skin, I felt the change complete itself. The water didn't just let me breathe. It welcomed me, sang to me, showed me its secrets. Now, Kailong said, offering me his arm like we were at a formal ball instead of floating in the middle of the ocean, shall we go ruin your sister's performance? The Coast Guard cutter arrived 20 minutes later, searchlights blazing across the water. They'd already started talking about recovery operations rather than rescue. Vivian stood at the yacht's rail, draped in David's jacket, playing the grieving sister to perfection. She was my best friend, she was telling a reporter who'd somehow already arrived. I can't believe she's gone. That's when I surfaced, not dramatically, not like a vengeful spirit rising from the depths. I simply swam up to the ladder on the yacht's side and climbed aboard, water streaming from my hair, my black dress somehow perfectly intact despite everything. Hi, everyone, I said calmly. Sorry I scared you. The current was stronger than I expected. The silence was absolute. 300 people stared at me like I'd risen from the dead, which I supposed I had. Vivian's face was a masterpiece of conflicting emotions. The relief she had to project warred with the horror she actually felt. Her perfectly painted lips opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Marina!" she finally squeaked. "You're alive! I was so worried!" She rushed toward me, arms outstretched for an embrace, and I let her come. Let her wrap her arms around me in front of everyone. Let her put on her show of sisterly love. But when she pressed close, I whispered in her ear, "I know what you did." She stiffened but didn't pull away, couldn't pull away without raising questions. "I don't know what you mean," she whispered back. "You fell. You were drunk." "The champagne you gave me tasted interesting," I said, still smiling for our audience. "Very bitter. I'm sure if someone were to test my blood right now, they'd find something fascinating." She tried to pull back then, but I held her tight, my newfound strength surprising both of us. "But don't worry," I continued. "I'm not going to turn you in. That would be too easy." Finally, I let her go, turning to address the crowd. "I'm so sorry for frightening everyone," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the deck. I stepped out for air and leaned too far over the rail. The current caught me, but I'm a strong swimmer. I ended up about a quarter mile away before I could make it back. Thank God for all those years on the swim team, right, Vivian? Vivian's smile was brittle. We'd never been on any swim team. "Right," she said weakly. Although, I added, as if just remembering, I could have sworn I heard someone on deck with me just before I fell. "Vivian, was that you? I thought I heard your voice." "No," she said too quickly, then caught herself. No, I was inside with David. Weren't I, darling?" David nodded, but his journalist's instincts were kicking in. I could see him studying both of us, noting Vivian's panic, my strange calm. "Well, whoever it was," I said cheerfully, "they must have gone back inside before they could help. No harm done." My parents pushed through the crowd then, my mother grabbing me in a genuine hug while my father checked me for injuries. "We should take you to the hospital," my mother said. "You nearly drowned." "I feel fine," I said, and it was true. I felt better than fine. I felt powerful. But actually, there is something important I need to discuss with everyone. I gently extracted myself from my parents and walked to the center of the deck where everyone could see me. Vivian watched with growing dread. "I know this is Vivian's engagement party," I said, "and I don't want to steal her spotlight. But nearly dying makes you realize you shouldn't put off important announcements. So I wanted to let everyone know that I'm also engaged." The gasps were audible. Vivian's face went from pale to flushed. "What?" she shrieked, then caught herself. What wonderful news. Who's the lucky man?" "His name is Kai Long," I said. "He's in shipping. Very successful. We've been dating privately for a few months, and tonight, just before my accident, he proposed. I said yes." "But where is he?" my father asked, looking around suspiciously. "He had to leave on urgent business," I said. "A situation with one of his ships. But he'll be back tomorrow to meet everyone properly." "This is ridiculous," Vivian snapped, her mask finally slipping. "You've never mentioned anyone named Kailong. You're making this up for attention." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone, which somehow still worked despite its swim, and showed them the lock screen. A selfie of me and Kailong that he'd magically placed there, looking like any normal couple photo except for the subtle otherworldly beauty that made everyone who saw it catch their breath. "He's—" my mother started, then stopped, staring at the photo. "Gorgeous," I supplied. "Rich, completely devoted to me? Yes, all of the above." "This is supposed to be my night," Vivian hissed. "And it still is," I said sweetly. "I'm not the one who made a scene by claiming I'd drowned, am I?" The crowd tittered. Several people raised their phones, no doubt already posting about the drama to social media. Vivian's perfect party was ruined, and she knew it. But the best part was yet to come. The next morning, Kailong arrived at my parents' house in a Bentley that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. He wore a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, and when he stepped out, I heard my mother's audible intake of breath from the window. He was magnificent on land, his otherworldly nature hidden just enough to pass for human, but still evident in the impossible blue of his eyes, the way he moved like water itself. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, he said, bowing slightly when my parents answered the door. I apologize for not properly introducing myself last night. The emergency with my fleet required immediate attention. Your fleet? My father asked, his businessman instincts engaged. Dragon Shipping International, Kailong said smoothly, handing my father a business card that materialized from nowhere. We handle approximately 30% of the Pacific's cargo traffic. My father's eyes widened. Dragon Shipping International was legendary in logistics circles, a massive company that had appeared seemingly overnight 60 years ago and had dominated Asian shipping ever since. The owner was notoriously reclusive, never photographed, never interviewed. You're the Dragon King? My father breathed. The actual Dragon King? Kailong smiled. A nickname that stuck. May I come in? I'd like to formally ask for Marina's hand, though I apologize for the reversed order of things. When you know, as they say. They let him in, of course. Who would turn away one of the richest men in Asia? Vivian was there, curled on the couch like a cat, wearing a soft pink dress that made her look innocent and wronged. She'd been working on our parents all morning, no doubt, trying to convince them that my engagement was suspicious. When she saw Kailong, her mouth fell open. This is impossible, she said. Marina doesn't know anyone like you. She's nobody. She paints failed pictures and lives in a studio apartment. Vivian, our mother scolded, but Kailong held up a hand. You must be the sister Marina told me so much about, he said, his voice dangerously pleasant. The one who pushed her off the yacht last night. The room went still. That's a lie, Vivian shrieked. She fell. She was drunk. Interesting, Kailong said, pulling out his phone. Because I have security footage from my yacht that was moored nearby. Would you like to see it? He turned the phone toward us. The video was crystal clear, showing Vivian drugging my champagne, dragging me to the rail, pushing me over. The audio even caught her confession about helping me let go. Vivian went white. That's fake. That's edited. You can't prove. I also have the champagne glass, Kailong added conversationally, with your fingerprints and traces of Rohypnol. Marina's blood test from the hospital this morning confirmed the presence of the drug. I hadn't gone to the hospital, but paperwork was apparently easy to fabricate when you were the Dragon King. You tried to murder your own sister, my mother whispered, staring at Vivian in horror. Over what? David? The jewelry? She had everything. Vivian exploded, her perfect mask finally shattering completely. Grandmother loved her more. She got the chest, the real inheritance. All those stories about the sea, the promises of power, they were supposed to be mine. I'm the prettier one, the charming one. Why did she get to be special? Because you're a monster, I said quietly, and grandmother knew it. Vivian lunged at me, nails aimed at my face, but Kailong caught her wrist easily. I wouldn't, he said, and for a moment his eyes flashed gold and inhuman. Vivian shrieked and yanked away, cradling her wrist where his touch had left marks like scales. Here's what's going to happen, Kailong said, his voice filling the room with the authority of something ancient and unquestionable. Vivian is going to confess to the attempted murder. She's going to return everything she stole from Marina, the jewelry, the money, everything. Then she's going to leave the country and never come back. Or, Vivian spat, or I release the video to every news outlet in Asia, he said. Your face will be on every screen, known forever as the sister who tried to murder her own blood out of jealousy. David's paper would love the exclusive, I'm sure. David, who'd been silent in the corner, finally spoke. It's true, isn't it? You actually tried to kill her. Vivian turned to him, tears streaming down her face. Baby, you don't understand. She was going to ruin everything. She was going to take you back. I never wanted him back, I said. You can keep him. You deserve each other. David flinched, but I didn't care. I was done caring about either of them. The police are already on their way, Kailong said, checking his phone. You have 5 minutes to decide, Vivian. Prison or exile? She chose exile, of course, and the next 3 weeks were a whirlwind. Vivian signed confession after confession, transferred everything back to my name, and then disappeared on a flight to Prague with only what she could carry. David broke off the engagement and slunk back to his newspaper, where he was quietly transferred to the obituaries department. My parents, shocked into actually seeing me for the first time in years, tried desperately to make amends. But I was busy with other things, The chest grandmother had left me opened the moment Kai Long touched it, revealing not just jewelry, but documents, photos, and a letter in her careful handwriting. My dearest Marina, it read, if you're reading this, then the bargain has been fulfilled. I'm sorry for the burden I've placed on you, but I knew from the moment you were born that you were the one. The payment and the heir both. The Dragon King will seem frightening at first, but I promise you, he's a good man. I know because I've watched him wait. He could have claimed any of us at any time, but he waited for the right one, the one who would be his true match. That's you, my pearl. You have the strength your sister lacks, the heart your parents never recognized, and the power that's been sleeping in our bloodline since before I made my bargain. Use it well, rule the seas with wisdom, and remember, water always finds its level, and justice, like the tide, always returns. There were also photos of her from 60 years ago standing on a beach with a man who looked exactly like Kai Long. You knew her, I said, showing him the photos. I saved her, he corrected. We spent 3 days together while she recovered from her betrayal, while I taught her to use the small power I could give her without marriage. She was remarkable. You have her eyes. And her taste in dangerous men, apparently. He laughed, pulling me closer. We were in his palace under the sea, a place of impossible beauty where coral grew into living architecture and fish swam through the air, or water that was somehow also air. I was still learning how it all worked. Your sister's trial is tomorrow, he said. Are you sure you want to attend? Yes, I said. I want to see it end. The trial was brief. With her signed confession and the video evidence, there wasn't much to argue. Vivian stood in the defendant's box, her beauty dimmed by weeks of stress, and the orange jumpsuit that clashed horribly with her skin tone. She'd chosen prison over exile at the last moment, convinced she could manipulate the justice system the way she'd always manipulated our parents. She was wrong. 25 years to life for attempted murder, with eligibility for parole and 15 if she behaved. She looked at me as they led her away, and for a moment, I saw something like understanding in her eyes. She finally knew what it felt like to lose everything. David tried to approach me after the trial, full of apologies and explanations, but Kai Long stepped between us. I think you've done enough, he said mildly, but David stepped back as if pushed by a tide. I loved you, David said to me, peering around Kai Long's shoulder. I really did at first. No, I said. You loved the idea of me. The quiet, supportive girlfriend who'd never outshine you. The moment Vivian offered you spotlight and excitement, you forgot I existed. That's not love, David. That's convenience. He had nothing to say to that. My parents wanted me to come home, to pretend the last 25 years hadn't happened, to be the daughter they'd finally noticed. But I was done with that house, done with those dynamics. I'll visit, I told them, but I have my own life now, my own home. That home was a stunning beach house that Kai Long had somehow owned for decades, waiting for the right moment to reveal it. It was modern and classic at once, with huge windows facing the ocean and a studio with perfect light for painting. Half my time I spent there, creating art with a freedom and joy I'd never felt before. The other half I spent under the waves, learning to rule a kingdom I'd never imagined existed. The sea had its own politics, its own dramas. There were other dragon kings of the southern, western, and northern seas who had to be convinced to accept a human queen. There were sea witches who resented my sudden elevation, mer people who distrusted anything from the surface, and ancient things in the deep that even Kai Long spoke of only in whispers. But I was good at it. All those years of watching, of learning to navigate my family's treacherous dynamics, had prepared me for underwater court politics. And having the ocean itself whisper secrets in my ear didn't hurt. Within 6 months, I'd negotiated 3 major treaties, prevented a war between the eastern and southern kingdoms, and established the first cultural exchange program between the underwater and surface worlds. My art, infused now with real magic and the impossible beauty of the deep, sold for prices that made my parents' jaws drop. I donated most of it to ocean conservation, which amused Kai Long to no end. You're protecting your subjects, he said, watching me write another massive check to remove plastic from the Pacific. My queen, the environmental activist. Our subjects, I corrected, and someone has to. You dragons have been hiding down there for centuries, letting humans trash the place. It's time that changed. He pulled me into his arms, and I marveled again at how right it felt. What had started as a bargain, a marriage of convenience and revenge, had become something real. I loved him, this ancient, impossible, occasionally frustrating Dragon King who brought me pearls the size of eggs and sang to whales and could destroy armadas with a thought but got confused by smartphones. Your grandmother would be proud, he said, pressing a kiss to my forehead. She knew, didn't she, that this would happen, that Vivian would be the one to push me. She suspected, he admitted. She saw the jealousy early, the cruel streak. She did what she could to protect you, but some things have to happen the way they happen. The bargain required a betrayal over water. It had to be genuine, had to be family. So Vivian was always going to try to kill me? Not necessarily. She chose her path with every cruel act, every theft, every lie. Your grandmother just arranged things so that when it happened, you'd survive it and thrive from it. A year after my watery death and resurrection, I stood on the yacht where it had all happened. My parents had sold it to me for $1, unable to bear being on it after everything that had come out about that night. I'd renamed it Second Chances and turned it into a floating gallery for emerging artists who, like me, had been overshadowed by others. The opening night was packed. Critics, collectors, artists, they all came to see what the Dragon Queen was up to now. That's what they called me in the society pages, half joking but with an edge of nervousness. There were rumors about what had really happened that night, whispers about the impossible things people had glimpsed in the water. Mrs. Long, a reporter said, using Kai Long's surface name, your sister was denied parole yesterday. Do you have any comment? I hope she finds peace, I said simply, and I hope she learns that taking what isn't yours always has a price. The reporter shifted uncomfortably and changed the subject. Later, as the party wound down, I stood at the rail where Vivian had pushed me. The moon was full, the water calm and inviting. I could feel Kai Long down there, waiting for me in our palace of coral and pearl, probably playing chess with the octopus chancellor who always beat him. No regrets? A voice asked behind me. I turned to find my mother, looking older than her years, but softer somehow. The harsh edges of her favoritism worn away by guilt and recognition. None, I said. Everything happened exactly as it needed to. Even Vivian? Especially Vivian. She made her choices, Mom. Every day for 25 years, she chose cruelty. The ocean just gave her what she'd been pouring out. My mother nodded, tears in her eyes. I failed you both. I see that now. I let her become a monster, and I let you become invisible. I was never invisible, I said gently. You just weren't looking in the right places. Grandmother saw me, and now so does the entire ocean. She hugged me then, carefully, as if I might dissolve back into sea foam. Your husband, what is he, really? Mine, I said simply. That's all that matters. She didn't push for more, and I was grateful. Some truths were too large for the surface world. As the last guests left, I dove from the rail, still in my evening gown, into the welcoming embrace of the sea. The water parted for me, shaped itself to my will, carried me down to where Kai Long waited with that smile that still made my heart race. How was the party? He asked, pulling me close. Successful. We raised $3 million for ocean cleanup. My environmentalist queen, he said, kissing me. What would the ocean do without you? Probably what it did for the last 1,000 years, hide and hope for the best. That was before you, he said. Everything was before you. We swam together through our kingdom, past schools of fish that sparkled like living galaxies, through forests of kelp that sang in harmonious whispers, over trenches so deep that light had never touched them, but where beautiful, impossible things lived anyway. This was my life now. Half on land, using my resources and influence to protect the waters, and half beneath them, ruling alongside a dragon king who'd waited 60 years for me. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was better than anything I could have imagined when I was just Marina Chen, the forgotten daughter, the unsuccessful artist, the girl whose sister took everything. Now I was Marina Long, queen of the eastern sea, protector of the depths, keeper of water's secrets. I had power Vivian couldn't even dream of, love she'd never understand, and a purpose that went beyond petty family drama. But the best part? The absolute best part? Every time it rained, I could feel Vivian in her cell, feel the water running down the windows she'd never see through for at least another 14 years. And I could make sure she felt me too. Just a whisper, a reminder. The sea remembers everything, and so do I. 5 years have passed since that night on the yacht. 5 years since my sister tried to murder me and accidentally gave me everything instead. Vivian is still in prison. She's found religion, apparently, though the prison chaplain tells me it's more performance than genuine faith. She writes me letters sometimes, long, rambling things about forgiveness and sisterhood that I burn without reading. The water tells me everything I need to know about her state of mind, the fury that still burns beneath her reformed exterior, the plans she makes for when she gets out, the dreams where she drowns me over and over again. She doesn't know that every time she dreams of drowning me, I'm there in the water, watching her reveal her true nature even in sleep. David married a weather girl from his news station. They had a baby last year, and then she left him for his editor. The poetry of it wasn't lost on me. He sends me emails sometimes, nostalgic and wine-soaked, talking about what we could have been. I don't respond, but Kailong occasionally has his lawyers send cease and desist letters just to keep David on his toes. My parents have relocated to a smaller house by the coast. They say it's to be closer to me, but I know it's because they can't bear the memories in our old home. Mother has taken up painting, of all things, trying to understand the daughter she overlooked for so long. Her work isn't good, but there's something honest in it that wasn't there before. Father retired early and spends his time managing my charitable foundation, finally using his business acumen for something worthwhile. They still don't know exactly what Kailong is, though they suspect. It's hard not to notice that their son-in-law never ages, that storms calm when he's around, that sea creatures gather wherever we go. But they don't ask, and we don't tell. The underwater kingdom has flourished under our joint rule. We've established protected areas where humans can't fish or dump waste, enforced by creatures they don't even know exist. The Mer people have started art exchanges with surface museums, though the humans think the sculptures just wash up from shipwrecks. The sea witches run an underground or underwater network that cleans the ocean of pollutants, transforming plastic into pearls through magic I'm still learning to understand. And I'm pregnant. It's not a normal pregnancy, of course. Nothing about my life is normal anymore. The child, our daughter, the sea tells me, will be both human and dragon, the first of her kind in 3,000 years. She'll be able to walk between worlds even more easily than I do, a bridge between the surface and the depths. Kailong is simultaneously thrilled and terrified. He's been reading every parenting book ever written, which is hilarious because none of them cover what to do when your baby might be born with gills or the ability to summon tsunamis. "What if she hates me?" he asked last night, his ancient dignity crumbling in the face of impending fatherhood. "She won't hate you," I assured him. "She might go through a rebellious phase where she dates a vampire just to annoy us, but she won't hate you." "Vampires are real too?" he asked, then saw my grin. "You're joking. You're joking about our daughter's future rebellion. This is what I get for marrying someone a fraction of my age." "You love it," I said, and he couldn't deny it. The best part about the pregnancy is that it's made me even more connected to the water. I can feel every drop of rain that falls on the city, every river that runs to the sea, every tear that's shed near water, including Vivian's. She cried when she heard I was pregnant. Real tears for once, though I'm not sure if they were from sadness, rage, or regret. Maybe all three. She's tried to convince the parole board that she should be released early to meet her niece, playing the reformed family card, but they're not buying it. The video of her pushing me off the yacht tends to stick in people's minds. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if she hadn't pushed me that night. Would I have lived my entire life in her shadow, watching her take everything while I painted in obscurity? Would I have married someone safe and boring, had normal children, grown old never knowing that magic was real and that I was meant for something more? In a strange way, I'm grateful to her. Her cruelty freed me. Her betrayal transformed me. Her attempt to kill me gave me life beyond her wildest imagination. Tomorrow is the 5th anniversary of my death. Kailong wants to celebrate with a feast in the underwater palace, but I have a different idea. I'm going to visit Vivian. She doesn't know I'm coming. As far as she knows, I've ignored every request for visitation she's made. But tomorrow, I'll walk into that visiting room, pregnant with my Dragon King's child, glowing with power she can never touch, wearing grandmother's sapphire necklace that she tried to steal, and I'll sit across from her at that bulletproof glass. I won't say much. I don't need to. My presence will say everything, that I survived, that I thrived, that every cruel thing she did only made me stronger. That while she rots in a cell, I rule an underwater kingdom. That while she schemes and plans revenge she'll never get, I'm living a life so magical she wouldn't believe it if I told her. But I will tell her one thing, the thing that will haunt her more than any curse or spell. Grandmother knew what you were. She knew you'd try to kill me. And she loved me enough to make sure that when you did, it would be the best thing that ever happened to me. Then I'll leave, and I'll never look back. Because that's the ultimate revenge, isn't it? Not to destroy your enemy, but to flourish so completely that their betrayal becomes just another step on your path to glory. The water is calling me now, singing songs of deep currents and ancient magic. Our daughter is listening too. I can feel her responding, already learning the language of the sea. She'll be born in water, as I was reborn, but she'll never know betrayal like I did. She'll never be invisible or overlooked. She'll be loved from her first breath to her last, whether that's in 100 years or 1,000. Kailong just emerged from the waves, water streaming off his dark hair. That smile that still makes my heart skip spreading across his face. He's holding something, a crown, delicate and wild, made of sea glass and starlight. For our princess, he says, placing his hand on my growing belly. The sea witches made it. Every queen needs a crown, even one who won't be born for months. She'll be spoiled, I say, but I'm smiling. Completely, he agrees. Outrageously, magnificently spoiled, and protected. No one will ever push her off anything. Except maybe into her destiny, I say, thinking of grandmother, of bargains made and prices paid. That's different, Kailong says, pulling me into the water with him. Destiny doesn't push, it pulls, like the tide. And speaking of tide, the moon is rising, full and bright, pulling the water higher up the beach. This is when we're most powerful, when the sea and sky meet and magic runs wild. This is when I feel most myself. Not the girl I was, or the queen I became, but something between and beyond, something that belongs to both land and sea. I love you, I tell him, and mean it with every drop of water in my body. And I love you, he says, my unexpected, impossible, perfect bride. We dive together into the moonlit waves, leaving the surface world behind for now. Tomorrow, I'll face my sister one last time. Next week, I'll open another gallery, sign another check for ocean conservation, pretend to be normally human at my parents' dinner party. But tonight, I'm exactly where I belong, in the arms of a dragon king, in a palace made of dreams and salt water, carrying the future of two worlds inside me. Vivian wanted me to let go, to sink, to disappear. Instead, I learned to swim in deeper waters than she could ever imagine. And that, I think, as I look back at the lights of the city from beneath the waves, is the best revenge of all.